Utah has been missing out on some four-star recruits lately. Is that a trend that's going to continue year after year? Also, EA Sports College Football is back, and we are fired up to be able to play as the Utah Utes. We're talking about so much great Utah content on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcast. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacts with all of you in the YouTube comments, and thank you again for making this show your first listen every single day. Locked On Utes is, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and if you're interested in finding a second listen today, you can check out Locked On Big 12, where Drake always does a great job breaking down the state of Utah's newest conference. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our great friends at Gametime. You can download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, all caps, no spaces, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. My name is JT Wistricll, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined by Elijah Grayson Murray, who's a writer for Fan Nation All Utes. And Elijah, a lot of people have been noticing some recent Utah recruiting trends. And Utah did add a commitment over this weekend, so I want to talk about that. And then really close with a lot of fun stuff about EA Sports College Football, who we're fired up to play as. Also talking about some of the players we wish we could have played at while we had to wait the 10 years for the game to finally come back. But let's start with some recruiting stuff, because Jonathan Cunningham is a guy whose game we've broken down on the show before. Utah was in his top 3, but he ended up going to Texas. And he wasn't the only 4-star not to go to Utah. Bryson Weber, 4-star corner, ended up going to Nebraska. Utah was also in his top 3. And last week, an offensive lineman whose name has just eluded me, but went to Timpview High School, transferred to Bishop Gorman, and then had Utah in his group. He went to Oregon. So we've seen a lot of these recruits. Utah makes the top 3, but they're not able to close the deal, and with some of the 4-stars and the best players in college football. Is that a sign of what's to come? Unfortunately, I actually think it is. I just think in the current world of college football, where NIL is going to play a role into it, and the fact of, if you're a high school football player, do you want to play in the Big 12 or the Big 10 in the SEC? Everyone would say the Big 10 and the SEC, where the biggest brands and the biggest names in the sport are. So it's going to be even harder now with the difference in NIL, the security in terms of the conference you're going to be playing in. I mean, imagine the players who committed to go to Oregon State and Washington State are probably feeling some regret about that, because they're no longer in a Power 4 conference. And yes, Utah's fine for now, but in the uncertain world, the thing that feels the most certain is if you're in the Big 10 and the SEC, you're fine. I feel like there's a lot of factors that always go into recruiting, Elijah, but just with the changing and evolving world, the truth is Utah probably will get less and less 4-star players because of how things are changing with the NIL disparity and just overall revenue disparity changing with these teams and their TV deals, that if you're in the Big 12 and not one of those, the Big 10, the SEC, you're just simply missing out on.
Yeah, 100%. And here's the thing. While we're missing out on like these 4-star guys, it's not too much of a concern, because we've seen over the years how Whittingham can develop 2-star and 3-star athletes and into NFL ready players. And so, and I know we'll talk about Mana Carvalho in a bit, but it's like, you can't really expect to compete with Oregon and Texas, the big brands who have, unlimited NIL money. And
Utah's never really competed with recruiting wise.
Exactly.
Stolen a recruiter one, sure, but Utah was never competing with them.
Exactly. And you'll get a lucky one here every now and then, but on the overall consistency scale, it's not going to happen, and that's okay, right? Because we've been consistent, and we've been beating those programs like Oregon.
Exactly.
Without that added, recruitment support. And that's, I don't see an issue with it. Obviously, you'd like to have them, because it's brand exposure. It's saying, hey, more of you guys can come to the program, but it's not necessary with the way Utah run the team.
You're absolutely right. I don't expect Utah, unless something changes. I'd be surprised if Utah has a year coming up in the near future where it's like, wow, I can't believe Utah landed 5 4-star players. That's just going to be very tough. But the truth is, that's not really what Utah's done. Sure, they had a good year or two where they landed like 3 or 4 guys, but because they had been very smart about who they offer, who they recruit, found the best fits, did the best job developing them. Utah has some of the best development in all of college football. It's allowed them to beat these schools, the USCs, the Oregons in the past, that, yes, they've landed the players with higher recruiting, but I trust Utah's development. That's why I never overreact to recruiting. Right. Because I trust the staff that's in place at Utah, where the continuity is fantastic. That time and time again, I've seen the Utah secondary lose players and replace them with flying colors. Same thing with several other positions on this team. So it does feel like, Elijah, that even though Utah is going to lose out a lot, like if you see an SEC or an SEC or a Big Ten school in the final 3 of a recruit, a lot of time he's probably going to go there.
Yeah.
But as long as the same staff is in place at Utah, and even if Kyle Whittingham exits here soon, Morgan Scalley is going to be, everyone's pretty much going to say, I feel great about the development that Utah has.
Right. And, I think and it'd be different if it wasn't proven, but, winning back-to-back Pac-12 championships and arguably the most cannibalistic time of the conference, and you don't really have any of those standout guys. And it's also almost reassuring that you don't, because sometimes those 5-star guys and those 4-star guys have like an agenda to expand their own brand instead of, kind of meshing with the team culture. And so that's also probably what helps Utah's success so much, is bringing in these 2- and 3-star guys who integrate within the culture and can grow into the system without having a separate agenda. And then they turn into, stars and NFL-ready players.
Absolutely. And one guy that Utah is hoping to develop and turn into a star-ready player is Mana Caravallo, who you talked about briefly earlier. Dynamic athlete. He's a guy who can do a lot of different things. If you turn on his film, his first play is offensive play as a receiver, a great mossing play. Then defensively, he's picking off a pass, making a tough tackle, shooting the gap using his speed. And then after that, he's taking a kick to the house. He's 665 pounds, 5'11". So we would like him to be a little bit taller, of course, but this guy has the speed and the intangibles to be one of these guys we've talked about, that Utah can grow, develop, and help him reach the status of a star player at Utah football. The potential is there. Will it work at Utah? You never know with recruiting, but I think this is a nice get for Utah. And now they're 15th of the class officially.
Right. And so this guy, Mana, he is continuing his family legacy. His father played for the U, and his brother is also attending the U, and he's going next fall. So they'll be there at the same time. And Utah are bringing him in, from what I read, as a free safety. And so, he's one of the better recruits to come out of Hawaii in the 2025 class. So when you look at it like that, not the star rating doesn't always mean everything. You can look at it like he was one of the top 50 or top 60 athletes in the nation. And so he is very talented. And while they are bringing him in as a free safety, he's proven he can play multiple positions. And so if they need him to kind of play like a Sione Vaki role, he can fill that just fine.
He absolutely could. Can't wait to see whether it's Sharisaw or Morgan Scalley or Alvis Wooded, when they get their hands on him, what they'll be able to do. So that does it for our recruiting talk. Well, potentially, if you are playing EA Sports College Football 2025, recruiting is a big part of the game. It's so great to have this game back. I want to talk about all the Utah angles of it, which guys we're excited to play about, how everything looks in the stadium and all of that. I think that's something that is worth discussing, and we'll be diving into that in one moment. But first, I want to talk to you about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes, our great friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and simply level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. They have over 122 million parts. That's right, over 122 million parts for your number one ride ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. You can keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All righty, let's talk about a game that has been in the making for what feels like eons. It was announced back in 2021, and we finally made it. Elijah, EA Sports College Football 25 is out. It's back, and we can officially play as our favorite Utah team. For me, when I'm most excited to play the game, and I will say, I do not have an Xbox, PS4, whatever. But you best believe my friend that has one, I already texted him about when I'm coming over, because even though I'm not the biggest gamer, this is something I knew I had to play. And I think the number one thing I'm most excited about is, yes, it'd be great to play in Wistricll Stadium, but honestly, just simply put, I want to be Cam Rising, the guy who has had all of these defining moments and plays. When I think about Cam, I think about the drive against USC to win it inside Wistricll Stadium, demolishing Oregon there too, and two outstanding Pac-12 championship game performances, as well as some lights out moments in the Rose Bowl too, Elijah. This is one of the pillars in Utah football history, and I'm excited to just run this Utah offense with one of the best to ever get under center for Utah.
You know, I'm right there with you. With the new dynasty mode, me and a bunch of my friends from the university are planning on taking over Utah and getting Cam that signature playoff win before he leaves for the NFL. And you know, just it's so cool to have this after so many years. I remember the last time I played the game in 2013. You know, there weren't even names on the back of the jerseys, and so to see the player likeness, to have all the atmosphere and all the uniforms and everything, it's a joy to watch. And you best believe 1 p.m. tomorrow, I'm gonna be on that game.
NIL is something that's led to some problems in college football. This is the positive side of NIL, what you mentioned, by the way. Back when this was a discussion of paying players, I always said, why can't so-and-so have their face on the cover of this game and get compensated for that? And it's awesome that all the players who are in the game are going to get some compensation too. And it's going to be awesome to play as Utah. I mean, they're highly ranked in this game. For those of you who listened to yesterday's show, you heard us talk about Utah, the 10th ranked team, offensively 11th, defensively 10th. Somehow don't have a player in the top 100, which I still think is absolutely crazy. Cam being an 85. Somehow below Arch Manning. That's something we could rant about for a long time. But rather than that, let's just focus on the fact that we get to play as and be Utah, listed as a top 20 home field advantage. I absolutely think they should be higher, obviously, or maybe even been top 25. I can't remember exactly where they're ranked. I just remember I did not agree with it because I do believe it's – what were they ranked?
17th or 18th.
Yeah, I think that's right. I feel like they're a top 10 home field advantage. I felt like they should have been higher there, but it's just going to be awesome to play as Utah against some of these big teams opponents. We already mentioned Cam, but like hooking up with Brant Keithy for a big pass play, right? Getting a big sack on a third down with a Connor O'Toole or whoever you're using. This Utah team, and they're 1-2. They don't have a player in the top 100 currently. As this season plays out, just like last year, how Sione Vaki would have climbed these rankings. Jonah Ellis would have climbed these rankings. I think Utah is only going to get better as you play as them. And that's, of course, not counting Elijah, the dynasty that you and so many other Utah fans are about to create with them in dynasty mode too.
Right. You know, even like Teo Johnson, you know, he's been projected as a breakout player this year. So get some picks with him, return him to the house. And I can't wait to see, you know, the entire atmosphere just go crazy. And, you know, there's no coaches, official coaches in the game, so you don't have to feel bad about taking over Kyle Whittingham's job. You can just go right in. But no, I am looking forward to turning Utah into a yearly college football playoff regular. And I just think it'll be so cool, you know, to have I was watching the Shane Gillis match earlier that we were talking.
That was fantastic.
It was absolutely fantastic seeing like Micah Bernard in there, Dorian Singer. It's almost surreal, I think.
It is surreal to have it back, to see a celebrity like Shane Gillis play as Utah too, something you love, to have Utah be respected, right? We've talked about the hype for this game has been unmatched. So we've been talking about forever about how you have Utah ranked as a tier 1 college football program in this game. And yes, we wish the top 10 ranking, I feel like Utah being ranked 10th is absolutely fair. We wish Utah had guys in the top 100, but for the most part of the process of this game, Utah had been in a good spot for their ranking. So it's just going to be so fun to immerse ourselves inside Wistricll Stadium. I saw someone bring up how there's not the flags inside Wistricll Stadium. That would have been a nice touch, but overall, from what I saw, everything does look cool and it looks fun. And Elijah, as someone who, as you said, like is set to play this game as soon as it drops, what else are you most looking forward to about it?
The one point you mentioned is that how we are a top 10 team without a top 100 player. If anything, I think that shows how well-rounded the roster is going into this year. That's, we don't have the, like the Shedeur Sanders or the Travis Hunter or anyone like that. And yet we're still one of the best teams in the game. That is a testament to the team that Whittingham has built. And so I'm looking forward to just seeing how they progress as the year goes on, because I'm sure Cam Rising will rise in the ranking. And seeing how he develops with the squad, and Whittingham, even he at Big 12 Media Days was praising Singer for how well he is integrated with the team. And so I'm just super excited to see how that, you're not going to really get the same dynamic as real life, but to kind of see how you can work that team and what system works with the players in game it's going to be such a blast.
It's going to be electric. Can't wait to play it. The only thing that's unfortunate, Elijah, is that we missed out on so many great Utah teams and players over the years, from the last time this game came out in 2013 to all the way here in 2024. I think the team that really stands out to me is I would have loved to play as that 2019 team, right? To be Tyler Huntley using that elite dual threat abilities, handing it off to Zach Moss as one of the best backs in college football. Sac Lake City, John Pennicini, Lecky Fotu, Mika Tafua, Bradley and Nye, a young Devin Lloyd, Terrell Burgess, Julian Black. Like there's so many absolute monsters on that team. And, because of the time in this game, like we don't even get to play as Dalton Kincaid. So it's unfortunate that we did miss out on a few guys. And hopefully as the years go on, like these are some of the players that are available in the ultimate mode.
Yeah, 100%, and I'm sure we'll see more as the year goes on. But I really like Zach Moss would have been so cool. And Devin Lloyd, I mean, he's the guy that I remember my freshman year. That was his season. And every time I saw him on the field, I was just in awe. I was like, this guy is so good. And so not being able to play with him, that's kind of a sad thing. But like you said, hopefully as the years go on and as the game cycle goes on, we'll be able to play with more pro Utes because they do have the licenses to make that happen. And so I hope they don't skimp out on on having Utah representation in the game.
Same. I think a guy right away is, and I mentioned Dalton briefly, he just seems like to me he's going to become a star in the NFL. So like being able to add and play as him in this game, especially when you peel back and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot he absolutely shredded USC. Like that feels like a layup and a slam dunk that we'll get to use him. And hopefully guys like I said, Zach Moss and some of those other under the radar guys getting kind of their fix in there too. But what's also exciting too is just to see like the future of this game, right? Like to imagine a year from now, these Utah recruits that Utah brings in, be able to play as them and see. And next year, especially, I mean, Utah's not going to be ranked very high in this game because of all the talent they probably replaced. So then it will be more of a rebuilding job to get Utah turned around. I'm curious, Elijah, when you load up with Utah, who's the first team you really want to beat?
Oh, that's no question, BYU. That 2021 loss still haunts me. I remember watching that in my dorm, and I was just in shock. And so that is the first thing I'm gonna do when I'm load up the game. I'm gonna beat BYU probably 150-0 and enjoy every second of this.
150-0. Is that a preview of the score this fall?
Hey, let's hope so. I won't complain if I'll say that.
BYU fans, I know the trolls slaking my messages. It's not going to be that bad. Of course, I think Utah's going to win, but it's not going to be that bad. But I got to agree. I think the first team, if I owned the game, that'd be the first team I would play as too. Fortunately, the guy has got the game for me as a Georgia fan, so I'm not looking for. I hope he doesn't want to play as the Bulldogs. I'm not looking forward to that. As confident as I am in my Utes, I don't want to play the Bulldogs. That's the one I. That's the one I kind of want to. I want to stay away from. But it is so great that the game is finally out. And Elijah, you know what else is awesome? We're just getting closer and closer to the college football season. Can't wait for it to be back. And EA Sports' college football just being here right now is something that really excites me. But what also excites people getting ready for the season is there's still great content being churned out over by the likes of you and your cohorts at Fan Nation All Utes.
Yeah, we're covering all the recruiting stuff that's going on, and so every day we will post like 3 to 4 articles. We're covering all the latest Utah news, so you can see that. I retweet all my articles on my X account, so if you want to keep up with that, follow me there. And yeah, I'm counting down the days. This game will really help pass the time until kickoff. But other than that, I'm just, August 29th can't come soon enough.
Can't come soon enough, and it's going to be exciting. Well, I want to know from you guys in the comments below, who are you most excited to play as? Who do you wish you could have played as? Excited to see all the funny clips and just things that end up happening. I'm sure there's going to be some wild Utah versus BYU scores, just knowing our fan base as it is, which I look forward to viewing all of those. Just like I always look forward to having you on the pod, Elijah. Great stuff. Thanks again, my man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's going to do it for today's show, but we got a lot more coming up. We're previewing some of the teams in the Big 12 that are on Utah's schedule that we haven't had a chance to, as well as talking some of these conference realignment rumors going on. Still a lot more to come on Locked On Utes this week. We look forward to seeing you back on tomorrow's show. Hope everyone has a great time getting into EA Sports College Football 25. Go Utes!